Chapter 15. Present Day. Vera wakes up on her right bicep. Drool had trickled down her arm and onto the marble countertop. She is cold but comfortable in her silk shorts. She brushes the hair out of her eyes and stretches. She had been dreaming of the beached man whom she went to see yesterday and feels an inexplicable, pulsing responsibility for him. In her dream, she carried him. Yes, carried him, like newlyweds over a threshold, from the beach to her couch. She knelt before him and told him who he was, and he stared blankly. She screamed at him, names and titles and histories, and he stared. They made love in her dream. The beached man, lying naked on her couch, required no convincing. She climbed on top of him in front of the open windows, and her hair fell onto his face. She could no longer see his dark eyes, nor could he see hers, she imagined. She was free again. They would enjoy one another in anonymity. He didn't need to know his name, did he? As she wrote him, he spoke her name, and she withheld his. His hands were smooth and wet on her hips, and she moved them to her thighs. Water dripped down her bent legs to her knees, and she put her hands on his chest. Water splashed, and she felt wet to her wrists. She was climaxing now, and felt herself thrusting waves into shallow water. The man reached for her hair with one hand, and she swatted him away, pulling his hand above his head. He would remain faceless. He called her name again, and placed his free hand firmly between her breasts. She erupted and squeezed her fingers between his, feeling wet sand underneath her manicured nails. She looked down to see his face below the surface. They were on the beach, her toes buried in the sand under shallow water, their heads facing the road, her ass to the sea. His face wrinkled and sparkled in the rushing water, and he smiled. Those perfect white teeth on a perfect face, she thought. She whispered his name again, knowing his ears heard nothing but the world. Maybe it was his name, Jude. Maybe. In her living room, she pulls a book off the shelf, The Masks We Study, The World We Know, by Dr. Julian Thomas. She studies the image of the young author and can't be sure. She had seen his face many times since their first and only meeting, and every time she had been wrong. She holds the book in one hand and places a call with the other. She is on hold for nearly 5 minutes. Eventually, Claudia Kohler, the hospital social worker, answers. They will meet this afternoon at 58 Thurman Boulevard, and her house will be in order. It is always in order. She wipes the drool from her countertop and throws the gray towel over her shoulder. She always prefers to have a towel over her shoulder when baking. When Claudia arrives this afternoon, she thinks, she will arrive to the smell of fresh cookies and the salt of the sea. This is my home, and the doors will be open, the space inviting. Nearly 2 years ago, Vera pulled her Subaru Impreza into 58 Thurman Boulevard for the first time as a homeowner in late summer, September 5th to be exact. She shut down the engine and sat for a time. It had been a long enough ride to appreciate its end. She stared at the black trim and aged shingles in her headlights. It really was a beautiful house. With the car battery still engaged, she turned down her music, Dave Matthews Band, and rolled down the windows. Rolled down. She turned them down, as the kids say. The ocean was singing, a chorus of welcome, crashing just out of sight, behind her new home. She closed her eyes and rested. Nothing awaited her. She could sit for a minute or rest for the evening, and, most importantly, she could let those options remain idle as nothing more than options, never to graduate to a plan. She had no love for the sea, but allowed the white noise to whisper in her ears. She was home. A new chapter had begun, and perhaps, she might find something of consequence here, something new, something worth holding. The following morning, Vera explored. After a 60-minute self-guided tour, Under the Table and Dreaming is 62 minutes, she landed at a local Whole Foods and tapped on the steering wheel for the remainder of number 34. The town had everything a town should have, including space. Nothing seemed to extend beyond 2 stories. Her view was never too obstructed, and traffic was light. She didn't see a single billboard, not one, she realized suddenly. The town would communicate its own values, and no venue or product would need to shout to the wind. She had no doubt she was in the right place. The right place? Yes, this wasn't just good, it was right. She filled 2 grocery carts, dreaming of the meals she'd make over a glass of wine, dreaming of stacking and organizing her cupboards to her liking, dreaming of hot meals on a kitchen island, fresh, aromatic steam interrupting her field of vision as her fingers would dance on the keyboard. She will pause, she dreams, take a sip of her wine, and continue once more. All of her dreams will come true, she feels, but not today, not today. By 7 p.m. that evening, Vera was unpacked and her groceries had found a home, made a home, in fact. It's an essential and defining characteristic of a home, having the capacity to sustain its occupants. Tonight, however, she will go out for food, not to the bars, like Sally might expect, but yes, to a bar, she supposed. She found just the place in her morning adventures. It overlooked a part of the ocean she couldn't quite see from her kitchen windows. She could walk there, paved sidewalks, of course, and she could walk home. Vera appreciated every opportunity for wellness and fresh air, so long as sand was not involved. In her tour this morning, she saw that the Tralf had live music every Monday evening. The sign caught her attention, with tight, deliberate cursive in embossed wood, no neon, no beer signs. The sign caught her attention. The details sold the deal. Tim Reynolds of the Dave Matthews Band, tonight, 9 p.m. This would be the place. This town, East Norwalk, might just be the place. She couldn't quite say why that night, her first night out, required formality, but it did. And she of all people, would rise to the occasion. This was her initiation, her flag in the ground, her seal on the deed. She dressed in a professional but sexy skirt and coat, a thin white blouse, and red heels over black stockings. She straightened her hair in the bathroom mirror before applying bright red lipstick. Pop. Why did she come here? This feeling, Sally. This feeling right now. The sidewalk was adjacent to the beach. Small favors. This was her first beach walk in her new beach home, or the closest she intended to get to that truth, at least. And yes, it was in heels. She could hear the music already from the Tralf, just a half mile or so down the beach, an opening act, most likely, and felt profound freedom. The air was crisp and still. She was undisturbed. Catwalk. The world, perhaps, was her catwalk, and at the end of it, something must become, she felt, eventually. Clay hardens into something new, something permanent. Tonight, she felt centered and pliable, spinning and spinning and spinning, smooth curves and soft edges. She walked tall and with long strides toward whatever might await. Chapter 16. The store is filled with racks of clothes that might make a man, might land an interview. The girl, the dream. It's not the first time Claudia has shopped for men's clothes, but it feels like the first time. Certainly, it's the first time she has done this today, as the person she is presently, in this time, at this place, for this man. Every happening is unique from the right perspective. Mundaneness is a failure in creativity, a failed thought experiment, a lazy mind. She breathes deeply through her nose and smells the room, the allure, fresh materials, cotton, and light dustings of cologne. She wonders if these smells are here by design or if she is standing in the echoes of a recent customer. Claudia runs her hand across a blue fleece with no interest to buy, but rather a general interest to touch the world. Let my senses synthesize, synesthetize. Let me taste the sights, breathe the sounds. The world is magic if we allow it to be. Claudia is light in her steps and bounces from rack to rack in her tightly laced sneakers, singing in rhythm with her gait her favorite track from Radiohead's Amnesiac, Knives Out. I want you to know he's not coming back. Look into my eyes. I'm not coming back. Claudia finds humor where she can, and this song will remain until she sleeps, she knows. We are subject to our associations and what the world provides, at least to a certain degree. Words enter our brains and find their friends, their neighbors, their relatives. They reach, and something reaches back. Typically, something reaches back. Amnesiac. Claudia imagines the face of the nameless man in each mannequin. Maybe he golfed, attended parties, hosted, hid in corners. Maybe the man stayed home, reading books. Perhaps he was a man of adventure. She scans the boots, sneakers, and slides and wonders who last shopped for him. A girlfriend? A wife? Maybe he chooses his own attire. What influence might she inhibit with the wrong selections? What lead might he follow? It's a small task, packing a starter suitcase, but there are implications in all decisions. She dismisses her intentions to create the man she wants, someone professional but humble and comfortable in his own skin, strong but soft in the eyes, someone who can lead and be led, a man who can party, a man who can sit, be at rest, breathe the air and know its value. She has stopped on a green hoodie and finds her hand upon its sleeve. She puts it in her basket and quickly grabs socks, undershirts, large, tennis shoes, size 13, pants, black t-shirts. Enough. This will not make the man, she concludes. Her selections imply no taste, no specific taste. No print, no text, no occupation, no hobbies. In fact, they're perfect. They are the blank slate of a 6-foot, athletically built man. Let him make them what he will. Comfort is all she will provide. Comfort and decency. Back in her car, the music begins again on cue. Claudia reaches for her mirror, though it's already in place. The music is loud and carries itself out of her windows. A man who had been walking toward the store stops and turns. Their eyes meet. He looks familiar, but Claudia breaks eye contact prior to confirmation. Still loading. Download incomplete. Abort, abort. Holding for longer to determine how she knew the man would communicate more than curiosity. Yes, it would communicate interest, which is something else entirely. Women must quickly learn the art of disengagement. Claudia reaches to any item that happens to be in her passenger seat and rearranges what she can. See that I'm occupied. Claudia sometimes envies the female bird, sitting dully in her nest, blending in with the world. How in all creation did humans become the one animal that got it backwards? Sometimes she feels this minor envy. Most often, she feels grateful for her beauty and hides none of it. Wastes no time pretending she's average, dull. She is not, and has made an art of eye-rolling at feigned humility. I look so fat in this dress. Ugh. Claudia twirls when a dress amplifies her beauty, twirls and smiles. When's the last time I wore a dress? A real dress? Jesus, senior prom? She notices that the man hasn't moved. In her periphery, she sees that he is a large man, and she longs to know whether his green t-shirt is exactly the one she just purchased, as if her imagined mannequin followed her to illustrate her choices. Here I am, here I am. She puts the car in drive and pulls past him, glancing at him once more as she leaves. His face shows a soft, kind, and curious recognition. His eyes are not hidden. They're furrowed, but present and wanting. This is all in a glance, of course, but it's something that stays with Claudia as she pulls away and occupies her mind on the remaining drive to the hospital. I know this man. Look into my eyes. It's the only way you'll know I'm telling the truth. Noel? She says out loud after putting her car in park. Noel Gregory? Chapter 17, Entry 6. Vera came back today, escorted by a reluctant Nurse Cassie. I think she, Nurse Cassie, fancied me to be some anonymous prince washed to shore or something. Now I'm a liability that must be moved out, elsewhere, anywhere but this hospital room. Her energy screamed of disappointment, though the mood otherwise was pleasant. I felt the contrast and aligned with the latter. I felt no pity for her unmet expectations. It was time for my rebirth into the world, whatever that meant. Before Vera entered, Dr. Hume walked me through my situation, as she called it, and it was quite simple by the sounds of it. Honey, Claudia has been working day and night trying to figure out a solution to your situation. She looked mournful and pronounced situation like a kindergarten teacher might say accident. What exactly is my situation? Well, sweetie, we have no way of identifying you. The police have no leads, and you are in perfect health. We simply can't keep you and don't know where to place you. Protocol would put you in a psychiatric facility, at least for a time, but Dr. Fitzpatrick has been advocating on your behalf. We don't want to see you there, but we just didn't know any other options. Didn't? Yes, didn't, until one presented itself. Dr. Hume, you're holding out on me here. Do tell. Well, she went on to describe Vera's proposal in what I considered to be unnecessary detail. As long as the conversation continued, I was under her care. I think she preferred that. Door number 1 was a psychiatric facility. Door number 2 was a monitored residency at Vera's house in East Norwalk. She, Vera, had worked with Claudia and the police to pave the way for my potential discharge through that second door. I would not be under her care. She was a writer, Dr. Hume shared, not a care provider, but I would have a place to stay. The conditions were clear enough. Claudia would check in with me weekly, and I would meet with Dr. Fitzpatrick twice monthly in hopes that EMDR, medication, or other interventions might bear fruit. It wasn't long-term, nor was it short. It was a step, one we didn't have before Vera called and created it. The step beyond that is still to be determined. It is your choice, honey. I know how this must sound, but at least we have a choice. Where do I sign? She handed me the paper without seeing my joke. I smiled at her, drew a smiley face on the signature line, and handed back her pen. Dr. Fitzpatrick and Claudia will be with you. We are still here for you, honey. I know, and I can't thank you enough. Vera walked in with Nurse Cassie. No cheering this time, though the moment may have called for it. Certainly more than yesterday, when we had agreed that I was and would be nothing more than a stranger. You remember Vera, Dr. Hume reminded me. How could I forget? I do. Hello. Her voice was soft and interrupted. Vera pulled her cheeks into a stretched smile, and her eyes remained stoic, focused on something that was not me, and I felt like a child. Why had she come to my room if not to see me? Dr. Hume continued, She's really gone through a great deal to make this possible, honey. Oh, what do we call you? Call me lucky, I suppose. Dr. Hume laughed, and Nurse Cassie turned away to leave. Everything is arranged. We will see you in Dr. Fitzpatrick's office next Tuesday morning. Vera has agreed to provide all necessary transportation. Dr. Hume took Vera's hand, as if ready to raise it in victory after a boxing match. She patted it twice and smiled up at her. Dr. Hume explained everything to me, and I'm very grateful. I don't know why you're doing this, but I hope to learn, and I hope to contribute and repay this kindness when I'm able. I can cook, I'm sure. I can't say what my specialties are, but I can do better than these hospital cheeseburgers, I'd hope. Maybe, she emphasized. Maybe I'll let you into my kitchen. Vera winked. It was the first glimmer of personality I had seen, and my body flushed. Her hair was straight and dark over shadowed eyes. It fell lightly over her breasts, which were exposed just slightly between 3 disconnected buttons. Her shirt was tucked seamlessly into her skirt, and black stockings took me all the way down. This was peripheral, of course. My eyes were caught in hers. This model, this mechanical beauty, now had something more, personality. And now, I supposed, I was to become her roommate. What a world this is, indeed. Dr. Hume, I asked, be my Wizard of Oz and grant me a name. Vera smiled and clicked her heels 3 times. They were red, and her wit made my stomach tingle. I feel laughter sometimes waits in our bellies, waits to be unlocked or called upon. Dr. Hume smiled brightly, and her cheeks reddened. She looked around the room for affirmations that she could employ such a duty, smiles at every turn. Well, she put a hand to her chest. Honey, I name you Ozzy. Is he alive or dead? Has he thoughts within his head? Ozzy, I accepted. Ozzy, she affirmed. I think I'll sign my name now. She handed me the document once more, outlining the terms of my release, and I thought I saw a tear running down her nose. Sweet, sweet Dr. Hume. Next to the small, smiley face, I wrote Ozzy. It was labored and unnatural, and confirmed, as if I had doubts, that Ozzy was not and never had been my name, though it is now, and it isn't bad. I handed the clipboard back to Dr. Hume and hugged her most sincerely. I whispered as I pulled away, tell Juliana not to give up on me just yet. I pulled back and showed her my smile, and she hers. Claudia had gathered clothes in my size and handed me a travel suitcase prepared with these and other essentials. I was on my way. Vera led me to her car. It was a Subaru Impreza, pale blue and pristine from the rims to the black rain guards. She saw me admiring its cleanliness. Do you know this car? I don't know. I wonder if I've ever driven a car in my life. I didn't know. But then again, I knew it was a Subaru Impreza, didn't I? Hop in. I only live a few minutes away. We only live a few minutes away. She winked again. That wink is really something. So simple, so brief, and my image of her melted into something else, twice removed. I got into the car. It smelled like strawberries. When the battery engaged, Two Step by Dave Matthews was blaring on volume 50, and I realized this lawyer-clad beauty was rocking out when she parked this thing. She apologized and turned it down to an elevator volume. I knew the song and felt immediately at ease. Say, my love, I came to you with best intention. You laid down to give me just what I'm seeking. Say, love, you drive me to distraction. You know this song, do you? She was snarky, I thought, good-humored. I do. It's odd. Music has been all I can remember. And I wonder why. Is it the patterns? Is it the art itself or what it represents? Am I a musician? Maybe I'm in a band. She smiled, cranked it back to 50, and began the journey to her home. Our home, I suppose, at least for now. Drive me to distraction. Chapter 18. Sweet Judy Blue Eyes is opening line. It's getting to the point where I'm no fun anymore. Put Jude into a state of metacognition that lasted for the 7 remaining minutes of the song. His father's birthday celebration was coming to a close, he knew, and he thought of what he might do next. The night was young, as was he. Surround sound speakers in this living room had engulfed him for 42 minutes, and now the night would extend elsewhere, somehow. But for the descending stream, a shallow creek with beautiful falls every 100 feet or so, there are no bodies of water in his hometown of Frankfort Falls. Now, here in East Norwalk, there's the Atlantic, at least in summer months, salt water, nature's desensitization tank, well within his reach. Nothing, he found, allowed darkness and a view of the night sky like the evening water. Somehow, the darkness reflected and expanded, becoming present. The experience felt essential to Jude, and he sought it whenever possible. In the water, he felt closer to everything, and close to something that might be an answer. It's what he had alluded to in his presentation at the American Astronomical Society. There were the beginnings of an answer, and they were in the water. Well, not in the water, but accessed through it. Well, not necessarily through the water, but through what the water can provide. Shit. No, not through what the water can provide, but through escaping the confines of our material world, physics, breaking through, escaping from it. Damn it. Not escaping from, but connecting with and through our physical world to something metaphysical, something that underlines all of it. That's closer. He was approaching an answer. He didn't yet have it that night, let alone the words to speak it, but he will, and soon, he feels. And then he won't. There can be luxuries to loneliness. Some might frame it differently, but if Jude decided at any given time to float naked in the empty ocean, nobody would wonder. Nobody would care. Nobody would have questions when he returned home. Did you wear clothes this time at least? No. He could float until the morning if he so chose, though he didn't. Further, being so removed from Frankfurt Falls, there was additional comfort in anonymity. Jude preferred the pitch of peak nighttime. His eyes would widen to the vast darkness. He would fill his chest with air and float, connect to it, really connect to it. Floating in the ocean, his body would habituate to the temperature and touch of the water and air. His eyes would reach to distances he would never capture with a telescope, and he would travel. Yes, travel. Yes, that's what he would do tonight. He took the last sip of his second Manhattan, the one that always tasted just right, and chewed the last ice cube. He would walk tonight. It was close enough, and it was a beautiful evening. He grabbed a bathroom towel, it was all he had, and closed the door behind him. On his walk, he didn't bother looking up through the obstructions of streetlights. Instead, he looked down at his flip-flopped feet and heard the delayed rhythm as they slapped the bottoms of his heel upon each step. The concrete was a dull, graveled gray, and he thought of a jazz drummer rolling a brush on a cymbal. He stomped harder to create a kick, and the flip-flop slapped his soul with a snare. This was the rhythm of the night. There are luxuries to loneliness. The closest access to the beach was through someone's backyard at the end of one of the nicer neighborhoods in town. It was a narrow and direct channel, and he never felt they minded. Nobody ever confronted or stopped him in his routine vacations. In fact, he never saw a soul at this house. It became his pattern to cut through their lawn, and as we humans engage in those patterns, they become normal, no matter how uncomfortable they once seemed. From his access point, he walked north. He preferred to practice breathing exercises before entering the water. It was meditative and allowed him to better connect with the experience. He would walk a half mile or so in the open sand. On roads, one's eyes must be open. In the sand, one can wander. As he approached his preferred point of entry, he heard it. Music. This would not do. He was too early tonight, and that was his own fault. Sometimes a man cannot wait for the next step. When a day requires a change, he must move and create it. So far had ended, and the next chapter of his evening was premature. His senses needed absolute satiation for his plunge, not acoustic guitar clapping and clinking of glasses, and while he could have continued to walk to a more remote point of entry, he stayed. Jude's favorite activity would not be canceled, only delayed, for him to enjoy his second favorite pastime, live music. He laid his towel on the sand. Nobody would be coming by, and if they did, they could have it. The air was warm tonight, and he could air dry if need be. He walked up the beach to the source of the music. It crystallized from ambient distractions to mid-range rhythms, later to crisp high trebles and a familiar style of lead guitar. Jude thought he might know who this was, and found that he was right. What a world. Open roads to wherever a path may lead. Luxuries. He knew this bar as well, the Tralf. Thin khaki shorts, a thin gray sweater, and flip-flops would do just fine. His curly hair somehow never looked bad, even in the mornings, even tonight. He would close the bar tonight, before finding his towel, his place, and exploring the stars. Not the stars, the space between. The Tralf had open garage doors to the beachfront pulled across the ceiling. There were stools and cocktail tables lining the deck, inviting beachgoers or locals to congregate anywhere in close proximity. Join us, join us. The moon was full behind him as Jude entered from the beachside deck, which was covered with sand from people entering and leaving. The air inside was fresh and in motion, and the music was at a perfect decibel to allow but discourage small talk. One could engage or be in isolation should they so choose. This was of Jude's most valued dynamics when seeing live music. Jude noticed someone in the far corner of the bar. Her attention was elsewhere, and he took the opportunity to break his stare and collect himself. Before disengaging, he saw her red heels and traced her from the floor to her dark hair, clipped nonchalantly, rendering it out of the way and perfect, exposing her long neck and wiry shoulders. It took almost no time at all, and Jude quickly diverted his eyes to the fans laboring above their heads, to the open bar stools and hickory floors, to the beach bartender in a skimpy black tank top, shaking a drink for a party of young professionals. I'm just a man who observes, that is all, though his breathing had quickened. He noticed this, paused for some time in front of the stage, and enjoyed Tim Reynolds' cover of Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. At its conclusion, he went to the bar and ordered what would be his third Manhattan of the evening. Any more than that, and his space travels would be retarded. He also ordered the Monday special, as it read on the sign. The Earthling, Bailey's Irish Cream, creme de menthe liqueur, Grey Goose vodka, half and half, whipped cream with chocolate garnish. So it goes, so it goes. Chapter 19. Vera often thinks about this evening when they first met, through the lens of being alone once more. It was how she felt that she would remember most, not the music, not the man, not the drinks or the sand. She was interested in someone, with someone, wondering, curious, excited, and charged. She was free, in a new place, a new home, and wonder found her at every turn. September, 2 years ago. Though it was late summer and the heat was not demanding, fans still moved slowly above her head. It was what Vera noticed first when she entered, validating for her that she had chosen the right bar for her first night out in East Norwalk. She stood at a cocktail table further into the bar and to the left of the stage. Vera was watching a man intently, though his back was turned to her. She admired his strong legs and the confidence with which he approached the bar. While she observed the man's backside, she saw the bartender giving obvious eyes and shaking a drink, along with her boobs, much more than was necessary. How obvious, how silly. He looked effortless and gave no hint that his personality would counter his appearance. He looked as though he belonged somewhere else, but was content in where he stood. He was riding a wave, Vera thought, and she found herself backing her foot in and out of her heels. She saw his profile when he turned to grab his wallet. His beard did not show a single bristle, as if it were one thing rather than a collection of individuals. She wanted to touch it, to poke through it and find his jawline, which cast shadows past his facial hair onto his muscular neck. The shadows matched his dark eyes and dark curly hair. His thin gray sweater accented his back and shoulders and communicated to anyone who might be looking from the far corner that he maintains himself well, and he does. The man shook the bartender's hand, presumably introducing himself, before paying with cash. He appeared to tip well, and Vera wondered if she just learned something about this man, or if this was a one-off. Behavior is a funny thing. He walked in the direction of Vera to her surprise, and she averted her eyes, realizing it had been minutes and the room had disappeared. Tim Reynolds had begun Stream, a song made famous on his and Dave Matthews' Live at Luther College in 1999. The bearded man walked with confidence and indifference, never looking at Vera, but not shifting course at any opportunity there may have been, between people, tables, stools. His shoulders turned effortlessly to narrow his glide, and he continued on track. "The bartender told me to give you this." He placed the earthling on Vera's cocktail table. "Did she?" Vera sleuthed. Chapter 20. Did she? This woman was even more stunning up close, her dark eyes in shadow behind playful distrust. Jude smiled coyly and nodded before turning and walking back to the stage. He did truly love live music, and Tim Reynolds is a wonder. He had seen him 2 years ago on a similar getaway at this same bar, around this same time of year, he concluded. He hoped then that he would return. They would return, as Jude had every intention of being there, here, and here they were. Jude lost himself in the music and felt serene. Music has a way of melting from you the things that stick throughout the day. Music is cleansing. It's a warm shower. It's a bath in a natural spring. It's magic. Jude knew he would be challenged to purge this music in this moment from his mind when he entered the water. He would need silence, and that would now be more difficult to achieve. The solo guitarist reached for a 12-string and engaged an infinite sample sustainer. He tapped on the body of the guitar, which looped into an ambient rhythm section. Above that, he rumbled angry, bent growls on the low E string, which created a monster dredging through thick jungles. He engaged a mid-range riff on the middle strings, and the monster walked faster, with urgency. All of this looped and looped and looped, grew and grew and grew. Finally, he pushed a volume pedal from heel to toe, and the monster began to sing, to squeal like a pig at the opera. All of this whirled through Jude's mind. Tim repeated the note again for emphasis before he made the monster dance. Jude was lost. It was wonderful. He felt the fan's air on his cheeks and the condensation in his right hand, which was tucked closely to his chest, melting into his sweater, leaving a sizable Rorschach test, should anyone want to interpret how a man can get so lost so quickly. His bourbon had narrowly escaped the melting of the ice. Most had found his belly. Some had found his sweater, and only a drop remained in his glass. Glasses never seemed to empty completely. Tim had begun thanking the crowd before an encore was demanded, and Jude returned to earth for a time. "You know, it's unwise to accept an open drink from a stranger." The woman approached from his left. He felt her, and seemed to turn before she spoke. "Is it now?" She handed him a Woodford Manhattan, and took his empty glass to place on a cocktail table behind her. This would be his fourth. "Should I be concerned?" Jude joked. "All the signs are there," the woman played along. "I wouldn't drink that if I were you." Jude offered a cheers. She had ordered another earthling. "The bartender knew you'd like that one," he pointed. "Did she?" "Sophie has us all figured out." Jude took a sip and smiled, his white teeth shining in the stage lights. "Sophie?" She looked back toward the bar. "You're on a first-name basis, huh?" "We go way back. It must be how she knows I love Woodford." He flashed another smile. The woman feigned concern. "Maybe she's reading your diary." "She would never," he gasped. "She would. I think she did. Sophie is dangerous. We should get out of here." "Oh, is that right?" She placed a hand upon her chest, a damsel in distress. "There's a bartender on the outside deck. Our diaries are safe with him." "Are they?" She clutched her purse to protect its contents. "Listen, she can't be worse than Sophie." Jude had leaned in and whispered, "Sophie," as if she was listening, and they turned closely together to confirm that she wasn't. Jude could smell her perfume, and her hair, clipped into a bun, poked at the side of his face. It was soft and sent a shock down his right side. You're right, she acknowledged. "Let's go see Frank." "Frank, huh? First name basis?" "We go way back. He's the one who told me about Sophie's dark side." "Well, thank God for small favors." They walked to the outside deck, Jude in his flip-flops, she in her red heels, and continued to talk about nothing, for some time before even considering to share their names. By the time they were both ready to file those names under the category of people worth remembering, people we like very much. I'm Julian, by the way. Julian, huh? When I ordered your drink, Sophie said your name was Jude. You can't trust Sophie, Jude exclaimed, but we also can't get too far on her bad side. Let's roll with it. You can call me Jude. Vera. The music had ended, and the garage door had been lowered halfway to signal closing time. They have music here every Monday, Jude prompted. I just so happen to be free next Monday evening. Maybe I'll see you here? I'll keep an ear out for your flip-flops. Click your heels 3 times if you can't find me. Pleasure meeting you, Jude. Jude smiled and tipped the cap he wasn't wearing. He began to walk to his towel, though he wouldn't float tonight. Did you park in the ocean? Vera called. The parking lot out front is quite wonderful. Would you believe me if I told you I plan to go skinny dipping tonight? I might. That's my towel down there. He pointed to the lonely white towel about 100 feet down the beach, near the waterline. This is some pickup line. Jude palmed his forehead. And things were going so well, he mourned. Vera appeared cautious and quiet, her arms crossing in front of her skirt, small protections. Jude, by perceived necessity, went on to explain his intentions with the evening, his routines, the walk, the music, and the wonderful change in plans, his limits, the thresholds and necessities of the float. How often do you stare into the sky like that? As often as I can. Do you see anything new in the sky night to night? Anything new in the sky tonight? Yes, every time. He went on to explain his profession, the questions, his lifelong interest in the blackness, the paradox of impossible ends and impossible endlessness. He didn't know how long he spoke, but too long would have been the answer for most women. Vera, Jude learned quickly, was not most women. That's why I look up, he concluded. That's why I continue to look up as often as I can. Jude shed any charm he had had at the bar. He had gone full nerd with his explanation to comfort and disarm her against her perceived doubts. There are questions I'm beginning to answer, and I get closer with every moment of silence I experience under the night sky. Well, she brushed some rogue hairs away from her eyes. I suppose we could skinny dip in silence anyways. Jude's smile returned. His teeth shone in the moonlight, and they heard the garage door of the bar latch behind them. My bathroom towel is plenty big enough for both of us. You brought a bathroom towel? Well, I wasn't going to bring a kitchen towel. Chapter 21. Vera removed her heels. Yes, in sand. She could make value decisions, after all. We don't always need comfort or to lean into our illusions. Vera knew this. She had moved here in the same line of reasoning and would not let sand stop her now. She had preferences, not limitations. She held Jude's eyes while she pinched her hands under her skirt to grab the tops of her leggings. Jude could see the pink hints of her thong before she swooshed her hips back and forth and pulled her stockings down to the sand. She dropped them on top of her red heels, slid herself back into a standing position, like a snake, like a cobra exiting a basket. It was slow motion, and Jude was hypnotized. He saw the smooth lines of her calf and followed them as high as she'd allow. She smiled and broke into a run, waving him on with a full arm to follow, rounding third, and they would. One cannot walk into a skinny dip, after all. They shed the remainder of their clothes as they went, Jude a good 5 steps behind Vera. She imagined he had his preferred vantage point in the race. She threw her coat to the ground, and her shirt followed soon after. She pulled her hair forward to be sure her entire back was exposed as she arched to remove her bra. It came off, and she imagined his hands upon her breasts, their faces in orgasm, her legs wrapped around his waist. He ran behind her steadily. He seemed to be in no rush to catch up, and she watched him shed his sweater and shorts, clumsily by comparison. She laughed and paused her jog briefly to drop her skirt. She followed his eyes as he watched it, along with her pink thong, slide past her thighs. His eyes followed her as she slowly stepped each long athletic leg out of what remained, as if she were avoiding broken glass. She touched back down delicately on the sand before resuming her race to the water. And when they splashed upon entering, the night water revived them, erasing Jude's drink counts to a fresh sobriety. They embraced before a word was spoken, and Vera kissed him. Their tongues found each other, and hands explored. Vera wrapped her legs around him, and the moon cast light upon their wet shoulders. Dark hair, dark sea, nothing to see, nothing to see.